Raise your hand if you've ever been busy. Raise your hand if you've ever got tired and feel like you just need a couple days off. Most people would have both hands up right now. That's our world, fast-paced and income-driven. That's why we get caught up in our own lives so often, and that's why it's understandable when most people don't focus on worries that aren't their own. So what makes someone become a humanitarian? Someone whose whole life focuses on the welfare of other humans.
When you go back and you see kids that were living on the streets, kids had no structure, they had no routine, people who had nothing, they didn't have meals. When you see that they're all of a sudden they're waking up, they have structure, they have something to do, they have a meal in their belly, their life changes completely. They, like I said, their self-esteem changes, their self-worth, their ability to know who they are in the world and what they have the potential of becoming, you know, to give that hope, to give that dream, and then to watch people actually use that to do good for themselves and others it's amazing. It becomes an addiction.
And with Serena's help, we'll find the meaning of life to a humanitarian.
Not my skill set, nor do I want to learn it.
Sometimes, because I put up stuff which I kind of test
in the wilderness. I don't know if I was the best one to teach them that. However, and although it was a really
good when you said, I was like, oh,
the baby out with the bathwater.
I do know where that.
So for me, rather than doing something half-heartedly or like just half.
Love the music. Love the music. Hello, hello. Again, good morning. Good Wednesday, all that good stuff. And you are at the Time to Shine Happiness Show with the BBs, Barbara J. Beckley and Barbara Ellison. Yes, 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 yes.
And we are absolutely so happy to have you with us today. You know, because one of the things here at Time to Shine, we want to share inspiration, joy, and to help you, our audience, to connect with what lights you up, what makes your heart sing. We talk about it all the time. So I'm one of your hosts. I'm going to just be first today. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Barbara Ellison, and I am a next level living advocate. And I work with late career business professionals who are struggling with, you know, that loss of identity. Their health might be declining, or they have financial uncertainty. And I am so excited because my fabulous co-host, and she's the producer, by the way, Barbara J. Beckley. So, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world or where you are listening to this show. Thanks for listening.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad you said that because we are thankful for you listening. You could be doing anything else right now, but you're watching, you know, Time to Shine Happiness Show with us. So we always really, really appreciate it and grateful for that. So my name is Barbara J. Beckley, and I am a visibility and purpose strategist, consultant, cheerleader, whatever what you want to say. Let's just say I help you move your purpose to visibility so people can see the gifts that you have and how important they are. And I always tell people, we are the lighthouses to the world. So whatever your light is bringing in, because everybody has different people that resonate with you and stuff, but they need to see you shine. They need to see you out there. They need to see you visible. So I do that by video, TV shows, anything basically that can help you just be like, hey, I'm here. Hello.
You know, and one of the things that I always share with people is that of why visibility is so important. You know, we all have bills to pay. You know, we all have bills to pay. The thing is, though, people buy or they engage people with their services with people that they know, like, and trust. Well, how are they going to know, like, and trust you if you don't get yourself out there? because then they can know who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Yes.
Why you do it. And that is one of the absolute and most important things. People really, I truly believe, people really want to know why you do what you do. Because when you share your expertise and you are generous with it, people will soak it up. I truly believe that, because we all have, I hope, and I truly believe that the people that we bring to our show have high quality products and services, and they're the best at what they do. Share it freely, because that's how we all grow and impact the world.
Yes. Yes. And I always tell people we all have a unique gift in us. And I believe that gift that you have, you shouldn't keep it hidden. You shouldn't keep it under a rock or in your house or, just closed in. That gift is not just for you to be the best that you can be, because you are, even, just you being here. I always tell people, but that gift, it shouldn't be hidden. You need to put it out there, because you don't know who needs that. You don't know who needs what you have. You don't know who needs to give the hope and the promises and stuff in their lives through what you can give them and what you bring across.
Exactly. Exactly. And just because every time that you share your message, you don't know who's listening. And you don't know, it might not be for them right at that moment. But what if it's for somebody that they know? Somebody that is struggling with whatever it is that we've talked about. Like with me, I talk about being of just knowing who you are within what you do. So many of the people that I work with have no idea of who they are outside of their job title or their job description.
Yeah.
And so, and now they're facing retirement, or they're, what if they get laid off? And now here they are and have no idea. And you're like, well, who am I if I don't have that job, or if I don't have that job title? Well, and which is exactly what so many people went through when they were, when so many things were shut down. And they did not have their identity was lost overnight. Overnight, it was lost.
Yeah.
And what do you do? Well, that's where that's where I love to share with people. Who are you within what you do? What makes your heart sing? Do the thing that you love to do. And chances are it goes back to when you were a kid. Oh, as a kid, I always wanted to do this. And that makes such a difference. And if you can move that needle forward, even one small step, it opens up. I always think of it as, and I feel like I'm talking so much, but it feels like, to me, it's like when you plant a seed, and that seed can grow into a small plant, it can grow into a bush, or it can grow into an oak.
Yes.
You got to put the seed out there, though. You got to put the seed out there.
Yeah. And in order for it to grow, and then see, I love how you use the seed concept, because not only, taking the seed that you might have to share, again, that gift that you have, it's a seed, you put it out there, but don't get upset that people might not resonate with it too soon, because it takes a community, other people to come and put the seeds there too. So everybody's putting their little seeds out there, and then all of a sudden it grows and you grow and grow, and then we come back and we water it, and then we, just keep growing. And see, next thing you know, you're like, wow, how did I get here? Well, everybody that you came in contact with, everybody's gifts and talents that they had came in your life some kind of way. So that's why it's so important to be visible and to be out there and to be committed and consistent.
And sometimes it's the ripple effect. It's just, like everybody knows that if you throw a rock in a pond, you're going to see the ripples. And but you never know where those ripples are going to go. And sometimes the ripples make full circles. And then all of a sudden it comes back and it's like, oh, yike. That's why I put that out there. That's why I talked about that subject that day, because you never know. Like from my own world, I'll just give you a small little example. The other day I was talking to a man and we were just talking over people. The two things people pray about is their health and their finances. Well, we happened to be talking about his health, and he said, oh yeah, I'm really working on my health as I'm getting older. Great. What kinds of things are you doing? It was just a conversation.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, I'm doing this, and this, and I'm fasting, doing intermittent fasting, which is right up my alley. And then I looked at him and I said, are you taking a fasting aid to help your body to get rid of all the toxins that are going to be thrown off? Because when you're fasting, that's your body is trying to repair itself, especially if you go into it's a word called autophagy. And he went, I've never heard that before.
He's like, no, I didn't know that.
Well, guess what? Now he does, because that's my field of expertise. And he was like, oh wow, that makes total sense. And so you never know who's listening or what they're interested in. Like I remember the first few times I talked to Jason, it would just blow me away, the stuff that he knows about marketing. Wait till you hear him. I mean, the stuff that he does. And it was like, oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How to use that and to be authentic and to be that outgoing person and it's not about you.
No, it's not about you. No.
It's not about you.
And I always tell people that. Yeah.
And quit trying to be somebody else.
You see, now you flipping in a lot of different areas, Queen. Because we get to talk. It's like, yeah, it's not about you. Stop being this person. Be you. Because I always tell people, when you try to start being other people, then you're disrespecting yourself. That means somewhere deep. I always tell people, deep. Let's dig, and see what's the problem. Why you want to be Barbara Ellison, even though she's amazing and wonderful, and I love her dearly. But I got to be Barbara J. Beckley. Or why you want to be Jason? Jason is amazing. Well, you said with marketing stuff. But why do I want to be Barbara J. Beckley? I always got to come back to that. So you have to ask yourself that question. And that's where we both, you and I, in a sense, Barbara, help people, explore that. Right. Because I think the more and more you start loving on you, understanding who you are, what you bring to the table in this universe, the less that you'll start looking at everybody else saying, oh, they're this and this, and I'm just here. See, I hate when people say, well, I'm just this. I'm like, no, you're amazing. They say, you don't even know me. I said, yeah, I do know you. You're amazing. Because I'm trying to start that seed, like you said, to let them know how important they are,
Right. And that seed can grow. And and the thing is that they can grow too. You can help them to grow.
Just like the guy that you helped with health, when you told him about that particular thing he needed for fasting. See, he probably would have never, maybe he would have found out from us. I don't know, but I'm glad that you had that conversation, because look what the gift that you gave him, just that little time that you had talking to him.
You've heard me say this so many times. You don't know what you don't know until someone else tells you something that you don't know.
And you'd be like, you know how you have that little starstruck, like, what? I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, and that little seed is like, oh, wow. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. And you know what really is nice? I'm glad that you talked for 1 minute before we get to the amazing Jason here. I had that like aha moment just the other day with another friend of mine. And she used to be my business partner a long time ago, but we still chat. So she does, I do videos and commercials. You know how I do all that for people. And she does it too. In fact, she's a little bit higher than I am. I always look at her as like the expert, right? So there was one app that she sent me. She said, Barbara, you need to use this. There's some good stuff with this video. I said, oh, oh, this does look nice. I said, but it's going to take me, I have to teach myself. She said, no. She said, she sent me a link to Zoom. And I said, why are you sending me this link? She said, because I want to show you. I want to share my wealth with you. And I thought that was first of all, I thought that was so nice that her just right on the spot to do that. And then when we got together in Zoom, she started showing me stuff. Now we was in the app. We went to Canva because we had to post some stuff from Canva. And I was doing something. And she's like, why are you doing this? It's just easy just to do that. I'm like, I said, I've been in Canva for almost 3 or 4 years. And you showed me something that's going to help me move forward the rest. She said, what happens sometimes though, Barbara, we're so used to doing, and this goes back to, like you said, learning and growing. We're so used to doing kind of the same thing, similar all the time, that, you know, we had to open our mind and say, oh, there's a different way to do this. And it's okay. And it's faster. It is faster. What she showed.
Sometimes it's faster.
Yeah.
Right.
So I was like, learned so much. I was like, I was like a little kid in the candy store. I can do that. I can do that too.
You know, and that to me is what is so important. Have that childlike curiosity. Never, ever, ever lose that childlike curiosity about what's going on around you.
So true. Yeah. Yeah. And then one thing about a little child too, when you're talking about, you know how with children, you know, well, I know I did. Some people closed up. I don't know how with certain when you were a child, but we always ask questions.
Right.
You know, like, why is this? You know how sometimes you get tired. Well, why is the sky? The sky is blue. Why is it blue? Because it's blue. Why is it blue? You know, and you just go on and on and on.
What makes a rainbow? I can remember asking that. Why is there a rainbow?
Why is there a rainbow? And I said, why is different colors? How did it become the colors? Is it paint? I think I asked one time that to my dad. I said, is it paint up there? And he's like, no, Barbara, it's not paint. I know he got to the point where he switched to another subject because I know he got tired of me asking those questions. But I'm saying all that because we still, as adults, we shouldn't shut down from that. If we need the questions, we need to ask the questions to get answers. That's why there's no such thing as a dumb question. I always tell people, you know how people say, I know it's going to be a dumb. I said, no, it's not. It's not going to be a dumb question because you don't know the answer. So you need to get your answer. So you need to ask the question. Yeah.
And one of the things I'm going to tell on myself, you know, one of my big things is that I'm authentic with everybody.
Yeah.
And the other day, and now I don't even remember what the question was, but I went thinking in my mind, ooh, I really should know the answer to this. And right now I don't. And so do I either admit it or just kind of fly, just try to fly by the seat of my pants? And I went, no, Barbara, you're authentic. And I just looked at them and I said, you know what? I have no clue, but I'll find out.
And people respect you more. I believe people respect you more that than to sit there and be trying to figure it out. And sometimes people can tell. I mean, I've done that.
I think people can tell when you're kind of like
when you're trying to do this. Yeah.
That's when you're trying to do it. Yes, exactly. And I just said, you know what? Yeah.
I was like, no, because I've done that. I've done it where, like you said, the integrity is really important. But I didn't want to, you know how sometimes you just be like, I don't want to show that I really don't know. I know I'm supposed to know this. And now I got to show it to 3 or 4 people that I don't know. So back in the day, now this is years ago, I did the opposite that what you did. I was trying to feel my way through it until one person said, Barbara, you don't know, do you?
You don't know. Exactly. I would rather admit it up front.
Barbara. It was too funny, you know, and I was just sitting there looking like, no, I don't know. I'm sorry. You know, I wasted everybody's time. I'm so sorry. And I'm just glad they were people that I knew for a while. They kind of forgave me and gave me grace. But then I said that time, I said, you know what, I'll never do that again. I'll never do where I think I know and I'm trying to figure it out. And because basically they just called me on the spot, bro. They were like, you really don't know.
And then that, to me, I think that's more embarrassing than just saying, hey, you know what, I don't know.
It was, Barbara, it was.
Oh,
See, this is why we learn and grow from each other. Yeah, it was and I was like, that's when you say, I never want to do that again. You know how sometimes you say, I never want to do this again. That's what I wouldn't do that. No.
Exactly. So, but I am so excited to have Jason here. Jason and I have been, we met on LinkedIn and we just had instant rapport. Just had great conversations. And then it was Jason that got me through the death of my friend Pat.
Yes.
Pat.
Yeah.
Just
when you told me that, I literally, I was like crying for joy though, because I'm so glad that he was there at the time when the whole transition happened with you. And,
Yeah.
you know, I know it was rough. Yeah.
It was tough. And now it's been 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And yet Jason was the one that brought me through it. And just to listen to me. And there were sometimes we would be doing, you know, because we were doing another show. And sometimes, I mean, the tears would be like, ooh. But you know what? He did. And he would just kind of slough over the fact that I was crying. And he would just keep talking. Thank the Lord.
It's that little, sometimes you need that little buffer, that person to say, okay, they're dealing with something right now. Let me just kick in. And that's what I love about that, you know, that relationship when you're on shows and stuff with co-hosts or whoever. When you know each other, that's how you vibe and that's how you can flow. Yeah.
You know, and then plus, and I'm going to say this just because he knows I'm going to say it. I mean, wait till you hear his voice. I would just be in voice heaven.
Well, you know, but when I came on your show, you and Jason, so before I was like, remember you said Barbara, his voice, you're going to love the voice. And I said, really? I got on there, I'm like, Barbara was right.
Yeah.
He got his voice.
His voice heaven.
I said, his natural gift. I said, he got a gift.
I tease him.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just, well, you got two now. You got you and me with the voice thing. I was like, wow.
Voice heaven. So wait till you hear his voice.
It made me shut down like, I said, no, I'll never get that. Don't even try it, Barbara.
Yeah.
He has a good voice, a wonderful voice.
And he's a sweetie.
Yeah.
So,
but, you know, I'm glad that he's going to be talking about something. You know, I know we talked about, you know, just being yourself and all that kind of stuff. And he's going to get into a topic that is uncaging the beast to make the difference intended to make in the world. And I love how he said uncaging the beast. That's what got me right there. Because I feel like I uncaged my beast a long time ago after I learned that I am worthy and I can speak and I can talk. Because remember, you know my story, that I was a shy person and I felt like I wasn't able to be out there because I didn't think I was worried enough to do it because people were telling me I was stupid and dumb and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, back in the day I was younger. But when I let it go and I learned myself and who I was, now people be like, Barbara, would you? Barbara, some people be like, okay, are you done? I said, no, not yet. I got one more thing to say.
One more thing to say. Exactly.
But it feels so good because it's like that, like freedom from yourself.
Right.
You know, of people, but people were telling you, and then I was telling myself. So people start, and then all of a sudden it got in my head, and I was telling myself, well, yeah, I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Because they said, you know.
Right.
So
and because I was on the opposite side of that. I was always told, oh, Barbie, quiet down.
Oh, you were the
quiet down.
So they were trying to get you to be quiet early.
They were trying to get me to be quiet, and they were trying to get you, and you know, and it was like, yeah.
Yeah, they were trying to get me to talk, and they were trying to get you to not talk.
They were trying to get me to not talk,
and then it flipped on me. Yeah, I said, yeah. So
that's why we're such a great pair.
I know, and wonderful we have Jason on here, and then we could between me and you and his voice, we'll do really good right now. I love it. So with that, we're gonna give our sponsors some love, and then we'll be back with King Jason. Yep. He got King Jason. We'll be right back.
Good Friday, everyone. Your real worth isn't defined by your net worth. What makes you valuable is how you use what you have been given. All of us have gifts. Make sure you're making the most of yours. Have an amazing Friday.
It is now the bottom of the hour. I'm excited to welcome Nancy Matthews to our program today. Nancy is an author of a book. I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in the carousel for you guys. There it is, The One Philosophy. I want to talk to Nancy not only about the re-release of the book, but also what it's been like for her to share the message with all of you guys. Nancy, great to have you on with us.
Hello, hello, hello. So happy to be here.
What is up? I was like into the jingle.
I was too. I was like, Jason, I haven't seen you in a long time, sir. Thank you so much.
It's been a while. And I apologize. I don't know. For some reason, StreamYard is not cooperating with my camera, so I'm in low def. I put a virtual background to try to draw it out and make it look better, but.
Oh no, you're wonderful. I mean, we're here with the voice anyway, so it doesn't matter. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that your kid? Yes. So yeah, so it's been a minute.
Both cracking up and ready, like the topics you were hitting, and then like talking about the voice and everything. I was dying.
Which is cool. So tell us about what's happening with you.
Yeah.
What's happening to me? Like really harnessing in and realizing, like we talk about like loving ourselves or like, honoring ourselves, and like I've really been on that mission to find like define my true superpower in what it is that I'm doing, because there's like when you talk about uncaging the beast, when you can really tap into that superpower and do that thing that you were put on the earth to do, one, you can make so much impact and empower and change the lives of so many people, but it's filling your bucket. It's living in that zone. And I've been on this search. I've kind of known what I've been doing, but trying to like describe it has been so difficult. And I realize it's all based around that story. And this is something interesting for any listeners, and for you two ladies, if you've never tried this. I'm sure you use ChatGPT a lot.
Yeah.
Like, ChatGPT is like my assistant. And I'm like, I've been trying to put words around my superpower. And a few weeks ago, one of my friends had posted this like command like that you can give ChatGPT, and it said, ask ChatGPT based around all of our interactions, what is something that you see in me that I may not see in myself?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it came back. Oh man, it like described that superpower. And one of the things it said was, you have the ability to sit in people's story and emotions and think strategically. So when we talk about that marketing, the marketing that's out there, the sales that's out there is all like, be somebody else. Here's this cookie cutter, one size fits all. And what I believe is that your stories are data with soul. And when we can tap into that story, it draws the people that want to be around you, that want to follow you, or that are lit up by you, like whatever your message is, like it's drawing in the right people. It's working with and empowering the right people. But most importantly, when you can hear that story, it changes you on the inside. So your narrative is important, both internally and externally. What are you communicating on the outside to bring people in, but what are you communicating on the inside to yourself?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and people want to hear the authentic story. That's like one of the things that I talk about on my on some other platforms that I do, is that people buy services and products from people that they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And that's why they have to know what who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And if your authentic self, if you're trying to be somebody else, that's not why you do. Why do you do what you do?
Yeah. And I'm finding out too that, the biggest thing right now that I've been hearing a lot is you have to build that connection, that relationship with people. And your stories does that. GB chat, I know we all use it, like your assistants, my assistant too. I think we all are assistants. One thing it can't do is the emotional side, where it gets to understand each other's stories, each other. So then you're building that relationship, and then eventually either they become a client, or they become just a partner, or they just become a friend. I tell some people, I say it's not always have to be just looking for the clients and looking for the partnerships or sponsors for your business, but sometimes you just meet people, and that's like icing on the cake, is just being a friend.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is I think, like LinkedIn, for example, a lot of people, and like I get frustrated with LinkedIn when you get all the messages and like all the spam and all the ways that people can help you. And there's so much of it, right? But these people don't even know me. How can they help me? How can they have enough basis to send me a 3-paragraph message, about it? Versus like, I use it as a tool to if I get business, awesome. We all want more business, right? Like one, it's the way that I impact people. So that's number one. Yeah, I want more of that. And two, we all need money to survive, right? So but the collaborations and the friendships and the mentorships and like being able to partner and you don't even know where it takes you. And Barbara was talking about meeting me on LinkedIn. Yeah. I was in my zone of just meeting people, and and this is what I teach people is, don't go out with like, I need to find business. Whether you're in the you're going out to networking groups in person, or you're on LinkedIn, or wherever you're at where you're meeting people, go out with the mindset of like, I'm looking for intentionally relationships, collaborations, like, because when I'm meeting people and I'll ask people, like one of the first things when I'm connecting with them on LinkedIn or wherever, Facebook, wherever, what makes a connection great for you? I want to know, because that question is such a hack, because people will jump in, and the people that are there to sell to you will instantly insert their sales pitch. The people that align with what I want to meet are the people that are like, I'm here for collaborations, I'm here for relationships. And I would be willing to bet that I can't remember our exact word for word when I met Barbara, but it was something around, she probably responded to the fact of, I love building relationships and collaborations. And, we met, we had a conversation. I was like, you need to be on my podcast. She was like, you need to be on my podcast. And, and that's how our relationship built. And then, like you said, Pat passed away, and I just happened to be there in the right place in the right time.
Yes.
To be there to help her through it. And that's, one of my things that I have in my life that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. You became her power partner at that point in time in your life. Yeah.
Well, then we wrote a book together, like you talk about the collaborations and where can it come from? We wrote a book together. We did the podcast. We've done so many cool things together.
Yeah. And we're friends. And we're friends.
Yeah.
And we're friends. Yeah. And so it's like, even though they might go a while, might go that we haven't talked to each other, it's like, oh, no time has passed. It's like, oh,
isn't that nice?
Those are the best friendships.
And celebrate wins and celebrate, celebrate the things that are not quite such a win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we all go through tough times occasionally.
Yeah. The storms of life. Yeah.
The storms of life, and just the new things. Like I have to tell what, one day when I came home from my leadership event and just this new program that we're doing, and Jason was one of the first people I called, and I said to him, Jason, this might not be for you, but I have to tell you about it.
Yeah.
Tell you about it. It might not be for you. That's okay. But I have to tell you about it. Number one, it's always fun to practice on somebody that knows and loves. Whether because if you flub it up, oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm doing right now, which is so amazing. I had somebody that had been a sales trainer for over 30 years, and she created a program called Objection Handling Boot Camp. And her name's Denise Roberts, and she's here locally with me. But she attended one of my trainings that I had on overcoming objections, and she was like, "Hey, would you want to partner?" She's like, I've got this boot camp that I did in the early, late 2000s during the recession. I did it for professional salespeople and entrepreneurs. I knew that they were having a hard time with the recession. So I put this program together, and it did really well. But then I just kind of, things happened, and I stopped doing it. And so I looked at this program, and it was something that we do every week. We teach a framework, but then the framework outside of that, like to me, once you train, like, or you speak, if I go up and I love speaking on the stage, I love entertaining, I love the energy that I get, I love the energy that I pass. I see people, they're lit up, they get my energy. You can feel my energy probably through the screen. Just think if you saw me in person, you're getting that energy, right? But then they leave and nothing changes because, like if I'm trying to teach you how to tell your compelling story and the thing that makes you different, and somebody says, Barbara, tell me what you do. What do you do in the world? What difference do you make? What's your business? You're stumbling, or you're going back to that old way that you used to always say it. because you don't have an opportunity to practice. You don't have an opportunity to say it out loud. And so we've been doing these since August, and it's really started to build up where every Monday we have in person, every Tuesday we do virtual. It's Tuesday mornings, 9 to 10:30 Eastern. And we have it's mostly entrepreneurs that join. We have some sales professionals here and there. But if you think about it, where do entrepreneurs go to practice?
Exactly.
Where do entrepreneurs discover the difference they're making in their market? Where do they discover their unique stories? Where do they go to get out of their head? Because when it comes to getting objections and you're getting turned down and you're being told no in your business, it's not, you're not losing because they told you no or whatever their objection is. You're losing because of those emotions. Like, you're not going to dig deeper and ask more questions because you're afraid of feeling salesy. You're not going to come back and be passionate with them. There's so many times people will tell me, man, I wish I could just tell them this, this, and this. I was having a conversation with my friend this morning, and he was like, man, I had this conversation with this guy, and he could just really use my services, but he wants to pay for it, and he can't afford it right now. And so he's like, man, I've been thinking about him constantly because I know where he's at in his business, and if he's just gonna have a great deal of frustration if he doesn't fix this thing right now. And I'd rather work out payment plans with him, but I think it's probably now too late, and it's probably salesy. And I was like, dude, say that to him. Say that. Call him up and be like, dude, I can't stop thinking about you. I know where you're at in your business, and I know you need this because you're going to constantly spin your wheels. We've talked about it. I would be, I'd be willing, because I know you need it so much. I've been thinking of, and I can't stop thinking about it, to offer you a payment plan. Would that be something that would work out for you?
Right.
Yeah.
Or would you be open to
passionately about it?
Yeah.
Right. Just would you be open to? That's what I did today with one. Would you be open to hearing about this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes or no?
Yeah.
They either are not going to call you back, or they're just going to say, Barbara, not right now.
Yeah.
Okay. But it doesn't mean that no is forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I said to a couple of my people. I said, you know what? My job is not to tell you that you have to do this. My job is to tell you that it's available for you. It's up to you to decide if it's something that you want to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And what I like, Jason, when you said your friend went back, when he was saying, well, I really see that he needs this in his business, and I really just feel for him. See, people, when you go back, just like you told him to go back and tell him that, people see the sincerity in you, and then people will find a way a lot of times to say, you know what, they took the time to come back and say, I see that you're struggling. I want to help you. I know I can do this for you. When you hear stuff like that, people are like, wow, they really want to help me with this. So then you find a way to say, okay, let's kind of, if you're willing to work something out with payments, I'm willing to try it on my end. So
it's a way of being.
Yeah.
But it's so hard to be that way, because it's not that people are bad out there, but we're doing sales most of the time from an inward mindset. And it's like, I need to pay my bills. I need to make this sale. I need to, I need to hit that goal, or, and if I don't, I'm not going to pay my bills, or I'm not worthy. I'm a fraud. There's so much shame behind and failure behind it. So there's a lot of attachment to it. Sales to me, and if you're in business, you're serving people at the highest level. If you're finding the right fit with people, you're serving people at the highest level. But in order to do that, you've got to ask questions. You talked about it before we came on, asking questions, understanding good questions. Like, is this a good fit for you? Because sometimes we don't know what's a good fit. Henry Ford said, if I would have did what my customers wanted me to do, I would have figured out a way to build faster horses. They didn't know that an automobile was a possibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when we're selling and we're talking at people, it's not their idea. And so, if I'm pushing against you and I'm telling you, you're pushing back against me, it's now a tug of war. If I can ask you questions to understand you and your situation, and even understand if I can serve you. Like Kevin, my friend, knew this was a fit. The guy that he was talking to knew it was a fit. They had a passionate conversation. The guy was like, he could have got a grant, but he was like, I want that grant to go to people that need it. I'm almost there. He was like, I want to pay for it myself. And so I'm going to go this route. And so Kevin, like, man, if you're so passionate about it, like, and you went to him and said that, I'm sure he'd be like, yeah, let's do it.
Yes. Yeah.
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 And just I think for me, one of the things that I am really learning to do, it's not there yet, but I'm learning to do, is to just say, well, tell me more about that.
Yes, tell me more.
See where they're coming from.
Yes. You have
because
to.
otherwise, if you're telling them, then you're just selling something.
Yeah.
But if they're telling you, it's the truth of their truth.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I found out? I always say if I'm on a call with somebody and if I hear myself talking more than they are, then I know that I messed up. Because it's like I'm doing all this. And I said, they just sitting back listening. I was like, okay, I've been doing this for 5-10 minutes right now. Nope. That's like
I coined this phrase at boot camp a few weeks ago, and I said, if you're talking 80% of the time, you're losing 80% of the deals. You're losing 80% of the time. You know, like if you're talking, you're losing.
Right.
Literally,
right.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. God gave us 2 ears and one mouth for a reason, you know, and we think we've got to have all the answers. And the problem is we're putting all the pressure on ourselves. If we set back and just, man, I could carry a whole conversation around that whole, what Barbara just said, tell me, you know, Barbara, just a little bit ago, you told me about this. Can you tell me more? Can you tell me more about that?
More about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like my podcast, Coffee and Grit. I have an hour and a half conversation with just the who, what, where, when, how, and then tell me more.
Yeah, tell me more. Exactly.
Tell me more.
Tell me more. That's like today, one of the gals that I was talking to, and I was like, well, she said something about her mom. And I said, well, tell me more about what's happening with your mom.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, and now I'm going to have an opportunity to go back and say, hey, if this is what she's struggling with, would you be open to looking at this?
Yeah.
And they're going to say yes or no.
Absolutely.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think so often, so many people are so attached to the outcome that it has to be a sale. It's not. Sometimes it's just a conversation.
Yeah.
And that's what Barbara alluded to before, is that it doesn't have to necessarily always be a client. Sometimes it can just be a relationship. Sometimes it can just be a friendship. Sometimes it can be a networking opportunity. Sometimes it can be a joint venture partner.
Yep.
You don't know.
Yep. And then sometimes, because I know with one of my clients I have now, and she's a friend too, we became friends, is 2 years. We met, she seen what I'd done. She said what I do with visibility and stuff and help people out with that. She said, ooh, but not right now. In her mind, I can tell. And I said, I didn't push it. I just said, I'm here. 2 years later, she came back. She said, Barbara, out of everybody, you came to my mind because you are the only one that said, you know what? You have to do for you because I want you to succeed and you're happy with whatever you pay for.
Right.
So when she said that to me, 2 years, 2 whole years. For a minute, I was like, I was back in my mind. I was like, well, she's probably. But then when she came back and told me that, I said, see, but I was checking in on her too. Like, months we come by and say, just sending you an email. How you doing? I just want to make sure you're good. And that's it. No sales, no nothing. It was just like checking in. And she said, you really, and we were talking about consistency a little while ago, Barbara, being consistent. And I was consistent with that. And then she came back and she became a client. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that sticking with. And then another thing, and I'm sure because of all the content you're creating in the podcast, and this is kind of the story part that we're talking about. One, both of you have phenomenal stories. I remember, Barbara, when you were on our show, Everyday Riches, and hearing your story, and I remember cutting clips out of it because you have such a powerful story. And same thing with you, Barbara. Like you're a favorite story. I tell all the time. I've told in my podcast several times. I love telling but like to me, our stories are what make us, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I have a pretty intense childhood. I had an abusive dad. I grew up with a single mom. I have a pretty intensive childhood. And so I was on a podcast a couple weeks ago, and they wanted me to tell that story. And as I was telling that story, and this has happened on our podcast, me and Barbara, where we've had a guest that have told my story, and because it happens frequently, where somebody says, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm so sorry. Because what do you say? You know, like people hear that story, it's intense, and they're like, I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm not sorry it happened to me. If it didn't happen to me, I wouldn't be here, right? I wouldn't be the person that I am. I wouldn't have the empathy that I have. I wouldn't see the world the way that I see it.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you said that, Jason, because I was just thinking about, you went back to my story, but I was thinking when you said that, a lot of people, remember how my father was basically murdered, and they were like, oh my God, just like they said that you said, oh my Barbara, I'm just so sorry, right? And I said, you know what? I'm sorry that he's gone, of course, because I loved him dearly, but I'm glad I went through that because I learned how to forgive, because I had to learn to forgive the person that did that to him in court. And my mother thought I was crazy, but that's a whole nother story. but I had to learn how to forgive, because I said, okay, if I can forgive him, and it's not just for him, but it was for me, because I had to let that, I had to release that. So I'm able to talk and move forward and move forward in my life. So I'm glad, because it taught me how to forgive, and it taught me how to compassion, like you said, Jason, a lot of things. Yeah.
My dad committed suicide when he was 42, so, and I had always said the only reason I'd go to my dad's funeral was just to confirm that he was dead. And that's kind of like our relationship and how, what the history of it. But the thing is, I was in such a victim mindset. I was failing in life. I was like getting constant negative results. And it was like, I would say things like, oh, it's just my luck, like that's just the way things are. And I'm blaming this dead guy. I'm blaming, like my circumstances and, the way I grew up, and like, and like, I don't know the epiphany and how it like happened, but one day it was just like realizing like, wow, I'm sitting here and I have all this hate and resentment for this man that even if he could change it, he's dead. Like, he's like, so like, let's say that he meant to do this to me. If he meant to cause me all this pain, there's nothing he could do or say to take that away. It is what it is, and he's dead now, right? And the thing is, I started looking at it as like started to feel bad for him. And I started to be like, he grew up a certain way, and he was raised a certain way, and he thought that was the way. And he never, like me, I was able to go out and change my life. I could go out and change my life, and now, I have an amazing son, an amazing family, and and I built this. He didn't even get to see that because, he ended his life. And so he was the victim. I'm not the victim. And once I could shed that narrative, I was then able to move my life forward. But it's adjusting and changing the narrative, the story. We are the stories that we tell ourselves.
Yes. So true. So true. And, to take it, like you said, deeper, and that's what I had to do too, Jason, is understand, flip it and say, okay, they must have been something deep in them was going on for them to either, like you said, take his life, or somebody did something to somebody and took their life or whatever. I said, there's something going on within them too. So that's even the more empathy that that's like even extra that you're going towards to learn that is, I forgave the person, but then I'm thinking that person is dealing with some things that, hopefully they'll figure it out if they're still on this earth. And if not, then I'm sad that they didn't get a chance to figure it out and stay on this earth,
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the things for me was in the personal development space, you totally do have to get in touch with who you are authentically. Yeah. And I can remember it was like, I remember the day that it was like, Barbara, you have been living over 60 years of your life, living by someone else's rules and through someone else's lens. Who are you? Outside of all the labels that you have put on yourself. Absolutely. Whoa. And that has been absolutely a journey. But now that's why I work with late career professionals who have no idea who they are outside. Jason and I have had great conversations about this because of where he lives within the automotive industry. People come out of their jobs and they have no idea of who they are outside of their job title or their job description.
Yep.
No clue.
Yeah.
And have no way to find out in their mind They have no way to find out, which is why Jason and I and you, and now why I do this show, why we do this show, why we get it out there. Hey, there is a way out if you want it. Some people don't.
Yeah,
you
well,
have
yeah.
to, you have to deal with those people too. That's like, no, I'm fine the way I am.
Yeah. Say, okay. Sometimes I ask, how's that going for you? But I don't do that because that was an argument. I don't try to say that.
What I've learned is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I've killed a lot of horses that way. I've held their head under the water and they end up drowning, right? And then you got to deal with the carcass. It's like there's so many people that I've met, and I thought I could change everybody, and I wanted it more for them. I see people that have. Like I said, I sit in people's stories and I can see clearly how they can use that story and how they can shift their narrative and use it as a superpower, right? Yeah. And so I especially when I was in my young career in leadership, I did not realize what it was that I was doing. I've just really started to shape and understand what it is I've been doing my whole life, that superpower thing. And it's working with that story and shifting that narrative, right? And so through the podcast, right? So I get out and I start my business and I'm trying to brand myself and I'm trying to create content and I'm standing in front of the camera by myself. And I think you two ladies can probably resonate with me here because you're doing a show together. I didn't like doing that. I didn't get a lot of enjoyment of making content by myself. It was fine. I got better at it as we went. But I was going out and I was having conversations like this, whether I was connecting with people on LinkedIn, we were having virtual conversations, or I'm meeting people in the real life coffee shop and we're having these amazing conversations. It's changing my life. I'm hearing stories that I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And it's helping me and it's changing my life. It's making me a better entrepreneur, a better husband, better father. And in the meantime, as I'm talking to these people, I realize I'm like, wow, that's an amazing story. I'm like, I never knew that about you. They're like, yeah, nobody knows that. How do you tell that story? And what I'm understanding is that the hardest thing to do as an entrepreneur or as someone in sales is to become human in the eyes of our prospect. How do you share those stories? How do you go out there and tell that? And so I went out and I bought a GoPro and I started recording. When I'd have amazing conversations, I'd say, hey, do you mind if I record this? And I'd bust in, we'd bust into the conversation. I'd create little clips out of it. And so that was Born Coffee and Grit, my first podcast. And the long story short of that is I've gotten to this point. It's all based around driving the content and getting content out there to tell people stories and to create a following for them. And my biggest pet peeve is when people are on the podcast. I don't know. Let me know if you can resonate with this. Where they're on the podcast, they spend the time. Why are people on a podcast?
Visibility, get their story out.
Right? Visibility, get your story out.
Yeah.
So there's so many people that are on the podcast that then just wait for people to listen to the podcast. This is an hour podcast. Some of my podcasts can be 2 hours. And so, people listen to it and watch it. But how many clips are in there? How many times are you saying something so powerful in 30 to 90 seconds that, oh, by the way, TikTok and Reels and all these things, that's where people's attention spans are like that. They're not just necessarily tuning in for an hour, 2 hours, unless you capture their attention enough for them to make that investment, And so they're on the podcast, you're not doing anything with it. And I'm like struggling to monetize the podcast. I'm sitting with my coach one day and he's like, I'm talking about how I hate going looking for sponsors. In the meantime, I'm like complaining about how nobody's doing anything with the content. It's pissing me off. And my coach looks at me and is like, what's in the way, what stands in the way is the way. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, why aren't those people doing anything with the content? And I'm like, because they don't have any editing skills. They have no idea where to start. They don't know what stories to tell. I see it. It happened. When I'm listening to story, I know, I see it. I see exactly how you should post it. And when I put it out there, you get visibility out of it. For someone else, for me to hand them an hour and a half and say, go ahead and cut all the clips they want out of it. That's like handing them a big major math project, right? They don't know how to do it and it's overwhelming. And so they sit there with the intention to do something with it until it's irrelevant because their business has changed or their story has changed, right? And so now the content's very irrelevant. I'm like, what if I created a way to be able to give them their content? Because everybody's searching for content. And so that's what I'm doing. What I started off doing is creating packages for people that come on my podcast that, hey, here's a way to market, to put your content out there where you can have content to post, you can get video out there. But by the way, I can also take the transcript from your video and create static posts for you. So I can create up to like 40 days, for example, of content for you that you can now post across 40 days. That could be like 6 months if you're posting only a couple days a week. And then, oh, by the way, it's evergreen, so you can come back and post it again. But as I'm going deeper into this, I'm realizing there's so much into the story because I have to look at myself as like an artist. I see your story, and like I said, I can see where it's going, and so I'm kind of painting it along the way. How many people? There's so many people. I've had now 202 episodes I've done of Coffee and Grit, plus all the podcast episodes of Everyday Riches and all the stuff. There's like hundreds of episodes of podcasts that I've been on, and people don't think they have a story. There's so many people that think that their story's not good enough, or that their story's not compelling. And then I have them on my podcast, and they're on there for an hour and a half, and they're like, "Oh my God, that was me! Oh my God, I'm a rock star! Oh my God!" I had my mom on. My mom was the 200th episode, and my mom was hyperventilating, right? And when I asked her to be on, she looked like she was going to be sick to her stomach. And then she's like, "You have all these people on. What am I possibly going to talk about?" And like, we're going to tell our story. Like, you raised 3 amazing kids out of shit, like out of the like, how did you do that, right? I want to pick your brain. Other people want to know your secret. How did you get out of an abusive relationship? How did you leave when you were scared for your life? How did you do that? Because like what I see in my mom, I see the magic that made her that she creates in the world. I see the difference that she makes in the world. My mom is caught up in her negative thoughts. My mom is caught up in the way that she sees herself. But it's not just my mom. Us as a society, us as individuals, we see ourselves for all the things that we're not. Right. When we get off here, we pick our brains about the things that we didn't say versus the things that, like, the bombs that I dropped, right? What if I stand up and give a speech, I'm on the way home, like, man, I can't believe I missed this part. I can't believe I missed that part. But like, people were so excited about what the part that I said, And so like, when I can listen back to the episode and hear my story and be like, wow, I am a difference maker. I had my wife on, and she was like right up until the moment of going into the podcast studio, she was like, I'm not going on. Like, and then so I was in a meeting when I got the episode back from the studio, and so I sent it to her so she could watch it while I was on meetings. And when I came back in the house, she's sitting there crying, and she was like, "That's just beautiful." She was like, "I'm a difference maker." She was like, "I can't believe how great I am." Like, like listening to it. My mom, when I sent her, she was like 2 hours of my mom's podcast. Like, she didn't think that she'd come on for 30 minutes and be able to talk. She's like, "I sound like I know what I'm talking about."
Right. I remember one time, Jason and we had to, I can't remember what the circumstance was, but we needed to listen to our podcast. And so I listened to the podcast. I called him up and I said, "Jason, I have to tell you, if I was not on that podcast, I would listen to that podcast." It was like,
you don't know how brilliant you are, you and Jason and myself. We'll realize after we hear it, right?
Until after we hear it. And hear it from somebody else's viewpoint. Sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you dig it out. Jason, I'm glad, because you do kind of do something that I do too, because I have another show, and the first thing I always ask, so I said, well, you weren't always this author and this amazing blah, blah, blah. Somewhere down the line, something happened. Something changed you or whatever. That's what I would love for you to talk about if you wouldn't mind doing that. And I love it because it just shows, like you said, the grit where you went through, like with your dad and what you went through. And it just gives you a whole different perspective of that person on why they do what they do. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I had this guy on, and this guy locally here, he has a business that everybody thinks everybody has these perceptions that he already had money, that he, crushing it and all these things. And before I had him on, I asked him, like, what do you want out of this? Like, what's the biggest thing that you want to get out of this? He's like, people think that I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. They don't know that I grew up with a single dad and that I lived on my own with my girlfriend, now my wife, since I was 16 years old. He was like, they didn't know that when I started this business, I didn't have a dime. I was just mowing lawns I had a mower and I'd just mow lawns. He has a landscaping company, right? He was like, when we're on the podcast, we're like deep into the story, and he's like, and when people thought I made it, when people thought I was living the dream, I was in the parking lot sobbing because I couldn't make payroll, because I was like, How am I going to make payroll? And he was like, and as he's telling that story, he says, I'm putting clips out there. His employees are like, wow, you're a badass. I knew you were great. Like, now I feel special working for you. Yeah. Now I don't ever want to leave you because like I'm going to learn from you and like what you did, like how did you get here?
Yeah. See, that's a thing too. Like you just said, you learned what their story was, and then you learn, okay, you made it, you did this and this. I want to learn from you. Success leaves clues, like they say. And you're successful with that. So wow. Yeah.
Stories are data with soul. Think about that. Like your stories are data with soul. Like there's so much information packed in your story.
Ooh. Awesome. Yep. It's okay, Barbara. We gotta bring Jason back. we gotta bring him back, please. You gotta come back, Jason.
I'll keep coming back.
God, yes, I love it. I love it. I missed the conversation, and I'm just when Barbara said you were coming, I'm like, oh, Jason's coming back. Yeah.
I was like, Barbara texted me, and like we had the makeup because I think you were in some bad reception a couple weeks ago when you were yeah, I know how that goes, and so. When I got the text, like, can you make 5:30 work? I'm like, I can. 5:30 is good. And I had a podcast, my podcast episode canceled out today because she has pneumonia and laryngitis. So I'm like, and I get to fill my bucket of being on a podcast today. So that's good.
Exactly.
Monday's in line.
This all worked out. You see, you never did the first talks. Yeah. So I'm so Jason, first of all, it's always a pleasure. We do want you back. I'm just gonna put it out there one more time, and maybe we can swap, in your podcast or what have you. I know Barbara, you two are working together. Are you two working back together again? I was gonna ask. Are you two?
We're talking about it.
Yep.
Yeah, I missed that show.
Barbara's scheduled to come out in March. I have you on my circle on my calendar. So coming out live in person to be on Coffee and Grit. So I'm super excited.
Oh wow!
It'll be fair it's about a 4.5 hour drive. So if I'm going to be out there anyways, let's do an event.
Might as well take the opportunity.
Yeah, speaking of, we got to start planning that.
What you said, Yep. Well, with that, we just love you, Jason and Barbara. Any lasting thoughts before we close Time to Shine Happy Show for today, and we'll see everybody next Wednesday.
Yeah, just you know what? Just go for it. Just go for it. Don't listen to the naysayers. Just go for it.
Jump. In a positive way.
In a positive way.
See you later. Thank you again, Jason, for coming.
Thank you.
Well, goodbye, everybody, and thank you so much for listening to the Time to Shine Happiness Show. I'm your host, Barbara Ellison, and I look forward to seeing you next time where we will have a great guest talking about making happiness the norm rather than the exception. Because we believe that each and every one of us deserves to lead a happy, healthy, debt-free, abundant life, whatever that means to you. So join us again, and please, to get reminded, hit the subscribe button or the like button wherever you're listening to us, and we will see you next time. Have a great week. Bye, everybody.
Introducing the Diamond Factor Network, where we turn your business into a beacon of success. Imagine having your TV streaming show reaching audiences far and wide. It's possible with the Diamond Factor Network. Unlock the power of your brand with our state-of-the-art TV streaming platform. Your show, your way. Feature highlights, customized shows, global reach, and professional support. Coaching by Barbara J. Beckley, Purpose Visibility, and social media strategist. Ready to elevate your brand? Join the Diamond Factor Network today and let your brilliance light up the world. Shine bright because your